All right, we're now recording. So welcome everyone to our public hearing tonight, Eagle Public Hearing. This is regarding the Berrien County Drain Commissioner's application regarding Grand Mirror Lake outlet improvements. So welcome tonight. My name is Jim Ostrowski. I work in Eagle's Environmental Support Division. I'm here with a couple other staff from our department who I'll introduce in just a moment. Just a couple things regarding our agenda tonight. I want to let you know, for those of you who've never been on a virtual public meeting or any public meeting, I guess, the way we're going to run this is it's essentially got two parts. We have an introduction and kind of an informal question and answer and informational session, which is going to take us through about 6:30. So the first half, we're going to just spend some time talking about the project, introducing you people. We're going to take a little bit of time for some questions that you might have and provide as best we can answers. So it's really informal, a little bit of back and forth. And then at about 6:30, we're going to change it over to our official hearing. And the hearing is where you actually make your official comments for the record. So up till then, those are just questions and answers. When we start the official hearing, that's where you can officially make your official comment for the record on this project. And I'll make sure you all know when that happens and explain thoroughly how you do that. So hopefully there'll be no confusion. I know that some of you, might be new to be on a virtual meeting, but we've done many of these and hopefully this one will go smoothly, just like the other ones. All right, so with that, I want to mention that in terms of basic housekeeping, you know, all lines are muted. That means you can hear us, but we can't hear you. When we get to the point where we do questions and answers and do the public hearing, I'll explain how you can unmute your line so you can make your comment. During the question and answer part, to submit a question, you can type your question into the question toolbar, or click that question button on your toolbar. You could type a question into us and we'll take it and we'll read them off. And or if you want, you can raise your hand. We can also take your questions those ways. Like I mentioned, we are recording the meeting and we will be posting it online as soon as we can get it up there in case you have somebody else that missed it tonight. All right, just some introductions. I'm going to have Ben and Kyle go ahead and pop on and introduce yourselves. So go ahead.
Hi, Ben Zamont here, still working from home. I'm in the Kalamazoo district office, and I've been in that office even since it was called Plainwell office now for about 25 years. Good evening.
Kyle Alexander, I'm the district supervisor for the Water Resources Division in the Kalamazoo district office as well. So thanks everybody for coming.
All right, Ben and Kyle, thank you. So you'll be seeing them throughout the meeting tonight. They'll be with us. And I guess, Ben, at this point, are you good with us turning it over to our applicants? Or did you want to talk any more about the project before we turn it over?
No, just that so recall that this is a Berrien County Drain Commissioner project, but that their consultant agent here is Edgewater Resources. And so I think one or two of their staff will be presenting, giving an explanation of justification and what is being proposed. So go ahead, Edgewater.
All right, so Daryl Velman and Lindsay Mathis, they're in the audience. So I'm gonna find you guys and unmute you so you can talk. And I do have your presentation that was sent to me. So hold on just a moment here. I gotta find your names. Okay, so Daryl, you should be able to unmute yourself. And let me find Lindsay. I got two Lindsays here signed in. So if Lindsay that wants to talk could raise your hand, I'll unmute you. All right, there's Lindsay. All right, so the both of you should be unmuted. Daryl, are you there? Daryl Velman?
Yes, I am. Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And Lindsay, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can. So I'll let you guys take it away. You got about 10 minutes. So we try to, be mindful of everybody's timer tonight. So if you can keep it to about 10 minutes, that'd be good. I do have your slides. So when you want to advance to the next slide, just let me know and I'll move it. Or you can go ahead.
Well, perfect, Jim. Tell you what, I'll start off the presentation and then Lindsay will wrap it up. So I'll have the first majority of the slides and just kind of cruising through these, kind of giving everybody a broad background of the project, where it's at, and some of the situations that have occurred. And then Lindsay will talk more about the application. So again, the Grand Mere Lake outlet structure, structures at the North Lake of Grand Mere. Christopher Quatrin is our drain commissioner. And you go to the next slide, please. Just a general outline, give you guys some idea of what we're going to do. We got a background, some existing infrastructure that's out there at the Grand Mere Lakes, some of the impacts that have occurred with the high water on Grand Mere Lake, and then talk a little bit about access and maintenance. And then I guess the fifth point, I'll be flipping it over to Lindsay to talk about the application. Again, just some general information about the drainage project. It's actually a lake control project. Legal Lake was established 1959 at 582.83. Original structure was built late 50s, and then they updated it in 2008. Can you get the next slide? Just again, just a bunch of pictures you'll start seeing here, giving everybody kind of a broad idea of what we're looking at, what we have before us. This is a drone photo of the outlet. And what we're looking at in the background is the North Grand Mere Lake. And then you can see the channel that leaves the overflow structure that is on the lake and goes towards Lake Michigan. You can see how that channel kind of meanders through the properties, through the easement out to Lake Michigan. Next slide, please. I threw this one in here, just give everybody kind of a general idea of the watershed that goes, watershed, just how big is the bathtub that the water collects and drains into Grand Mere Lake. That purple outline shows the approximate footage or outline of our watershed. And you can see how far north it goes. I kind of threw in the Mire. It's kind of a nice landmark for everybody. And then it goes as far south as Bridgman. And you can see that at the bottom of your screen. Next slide. Again, just talking about some of the existing infrastructure that's out there on the Grand Mere Lakes. There's 3 lakes, North Lake, Center Lake, and South Lake. Again, North Grand Mere Lake has a court-ordered level. The control structure needs a triennial dam inspection. Between North Lake and Center Lake, there's a twin 2 48-inch diameter corrugated metal pipes. And then between the South Lake and Center Lake is a single 24-inch diameter PVC pipe. Next slide, please. Here's just some pictures of the North Lake control structure. The picture on the left, you can see the North Grand Mere Lake off into the upper left corner, and then the channel, which you see in the right photo, which leaves and flows towards Lake Michigan. Underneath that grass and stone you see there, there's actually a pipe, and on the east end of that pipe is a concrete structure with a metal grate. And that metal grate is set at an elevation that was court ordered. I think on the next slide, we can see that grate. Oh, no, we don't. Okay, this is the left picture is the twin 48-inch tubes between North Lake and Center Lake. And then the right picture is the pipe that's between Center Lake and South Lake. Next photo or next slide. Yes, this is just some engineering drawings that show the structure, the overflow structure. Again, you can see on the left-hand side where the structure is located, then the pipe that leaves and runs westerly towards Lake Michigan. Next slide. Again, just more engineering drawings, just showing a cross section of what that pipe looks like as it goes underneath that, underneath that structure. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the grate that is on the North Lake. And this is where the water level is established. And as the water level rises, it runs through that grate and gets into that pipe, which is down below. Next slide. Again, just kind of a little summary of what we're going to see in the next several slides. We're going to see what the high water impact looks like for basically 3 items: the homes, a private road, and a nearby resort, which is the chalets. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a home on North Lake that has been impacted drastically by the high water. You can see the water is coming up right up into the home. The homeowner has placed sandbags so that the water does not enter into their home. The drain commissioner and I both went in the house, and there are, goodness, I can't remember. I think there's 8 different sump pumps in the house trying to regulate the groundwater around the house so it doesn't flood the lower level. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a high water impact on the road. This is a private road on the west side of North Granmere Lake. The photo on the left shows a lot of new stone that was added just because of the high water level is impacting the integrity of this private road. And so they had to add some more stone, some more aggregate to tighten up that roadway. The right picture shows how high the water is up next to this private road. There's been some, you can see some stone and some logs that have been placed there recently. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the chalets, which is north of North Granmere Lake. You can see the photo on the left, how close the high water is coming up to the one of their A-frames, or and you can see the driveway there is completely underwater. The right photo, again, just high water in the resort, and impacts just access to some of their additional structures. This is impacting their business and just their capacity to function the way they want to. Next slide. Again, just going to talk about some access to the beach and some difficulty with maintenance. So next slide, please. I've got aerial photo here. You can see in the upper left, if the contractor is going to perform dredge work to the channel, he has to come down through this opening on the dune, and they have to create a roadway, an access driveway down, perform the work, and then once the work is completed, they bring the machinery out, and then they have to restore that bluff back to its original condition. You can see the, looking down at the channel, you can see the channel in this photo is blocked, and this is a pretty typical situation, especially with high waters. That end of the channel plugs up. And then on the right-hand side of the photo, you can see the lake control structure. Again, we saw photos of that earlier. Next slide, please. Threw this photo in here just to show that some of the property owners in the area adjacent to the drain. And then we can also see along Lake Michigan, the parcel there is, that is for the, basically, it's not really an HOA, but all the homes on the north side of the drain have access to this property. So I just wanted to show that. Next slide, please. This is the channel after a really horrific storm. You can see the channel in the left photo is completely plugged. You can see some of the debris that's blown up the channel. We are looking westerly. In the far background is Lake Michigan. And you can see all the sand that's blown in there, and then debris near us. And then the right photo shows the channel itself. And you can just see there's no flow in there whatsoever, no surface flow. That's completely plugged there. Next photo, please. This one, I am going to turn it over to Lindsay and have her talk about the application.
Thanks. Thank you, Daryl. So here is a plan view of our current application that is in place with the agencies. And as you can see, the hatch portion towards Lake Michigan is the dredging that's required to maintain the channel. And we're estimating that it's a section that's about 80 feet long and 25 feet wide. Now it's only probably 8 to 10 inches deep. And of course, it sort of meanders in different directions depending on the sand deposition in the lake itself. So we're requesting, or the Drain Commissioner is requesting to dredge this periodically and place the material along the dune on the north side. And you can see that in the plan view. It's kind of hard to see, but it's basically the real tight hatching. It's supposed to be a sand hatch, and he's going to place it basically where he can to help restore the dune area there. And that's pretty much it. I know Ben wanted to keep this to under 10 minutes so we could take some questions. So how are we doing on time?
All right, looking really good on time. So thanks, Lindsay and Daryl. I'm going to leave, actually, I'm going to put up our next slide there. Okay, good. So at this point, what we like to do is open it up from our attendees, see if anybody's got any questions. And bring Ben back up again, and we'll read off the questions if they come in, and Ben, you can decide who would be best to answer them. I'm not seeing any questions right now, so there's usually a little delay in terms of when they come in. So if you do have a question, you can type it in the question box on your toolbar. You can click the raise hand icon if you want, and I'll unmute your line and call on you. You can ask a question that way. It doesn't look like we have anybody just on the phone. So if you are on the phone, you can click *9 and we call on you.
I'll say that,
yeah.
As far as questions, the most valuable kinds of questions at this point are clarifying for the applicant, for the Drain Commissioner, for Edgewater, to get clarification of what exactly it is that they're proposing, how they came to the decision of coming up with this design, what maybe alternatives they did consider. So it'd be clarification of what they're proposing, how they came up with it. And then the other type of question would be the EGLE process, how it is that we go about making our decision. And so the questions that are more open-ended, or how could you allow that, aren't really the kind of questions we're looking for right now. So clarification of process and design is kind of what these are seem to be most valuable here.
Okay, got a couple questions come in. One person was asking how many people are actually viewing tonight. And we have 19 people logged in to view the webinar tonight, the hearing. We got a question that came in just now, Ben. It says, is the high water related more to the sand plug, grate, cover, clog, or Lake Michigan water levels rising?
And I'm usually going to defer to the applicant on these. If somehow there's a reason why I need to enter in, I will, but I'll always let Edgewater, the Drain Commissioner, start with most of the questions.
So Daryl and Lindsay, you want to address that question about what high water is it related to the sand plug, grate, cover, clog, or Lake Michigan water levels rising?
Well, I can start out with an answer on that, and Lindsay, you can certainly jump in after me and fill in any gaps that I may have missed. What we're seeing here is the end of the channel getting plugged up just by the wave activities, the sediment flow. It's just during large storms, the waves are just pushing all that sand onto the shoreline and plugging up that channel. We're not seeing debris on the grate on that at the overflow structure that would impact the dredging. Usually there's enough surface area on that grate to allow that water to flow through, And we weren't seeing any issues with that. So our focus was really trying to get that sand out of the channel.
Okay, thanks. Another question is, how often will maintenance dredging be needed? Daryl or Lindsay, you want to address that?
I'll take a poke at that one. Recently with the high waters and some of the large storms we've seen in the spring and in the fall, drain commissioners had to bring a contractor out there probably, I think he's told me twice a week. And maybe during normal, I'm going to call it normal, I mean, in the summer, maybe they're out there once a week. And again, the contractor says to get a hold of, the drain commissioner gets hold of a local contractor, and he goes out there, and depending on the volume of sand that's clogging the channel, that could be a half day's work, maybe, some of the bigger storms, it could be a full day's worth of work.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in, and that's fine. We don't have to, if you guys don't have questions, that's fine. But I will wait for another second here to see if there's anything else comes in. And yeah, one did come in. They're asking what alternatives were considered. Daryl, you want to address that?
Yeah. The main focus of this permit application is for dredging, and alternates we considered extending that pipe from the overflow structure out to Lake Michigan, so you can avoid dredging, and you basically fill that channel in. The challenge with that, and we've seen this all up and down the coast, whether it's Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, all these pipes that flow out into Lake Michigan, they still get plugged with the same wave action and sand action. The challenge with extending a pipe towards Lake Michigan and it gets plugged, it's a lot more difficult to maintain that. Contractor just can't bring his backhoe out to the site and open up that channel. He's got to go in there and basically almost dig that out by hand, just digging that sand out of the end of the pipe. So that was one of the options we considered. We considered lining the channel with stone to try and narrow the channel up to increase the velocity. And a lot of times that helps when there's a good size flow coming from the upstream end to the downstream end. The challenge here is we're so flat that you can't get the velocity that'll move that silt and sediment out of the channel. So we also considered, armoring the channel that way.
All right. Another question, does the Drain Commission office cover all cost for dredging, or is an assessment made to local residents?
Well, I guess I can answer that, and I guess the Drain Commissioner or someone else could jump in and answer that. But the Drain Commissioner brings in a contractor to perform the work to open up the channel. The cost for that work gets assessed to the district for the Grand Mirror Lake outlet, the high water control structure. So those costs go back to the residents. There's not a pot of money at the county that pays for that work. So that work is all paid for by residents that would be in that district.
All right. All right, Ben, looks like we got all the questions that have come in, and it is,
I see two more.
oh, I must have missed it. Oh no, they're popping up in weird places in my list here. I'm sorry. Thanks, Ben, for keeping an eye on this with me. One is why place excavated sand exclusively on the north side property, owner's property? Why not both sides?
The contractor, when he's out there, he'll place material on both sides of the channel. The south side of the channel is a sloped area. It's not a flat area. So only so much material can be placed there before it starts sloughing back into the channel. Then also this time of year, predominantly most of the storms are coming out of the northwest, and those waves are going to hit that recently installed rock revetment and wash that sand right back down into the channel, which we can certainly do. It just increases the frequency that the contractor will need to be out there to open up the channel. So the most cost-effective way is to place the material on the north side of the channel, but it's not exclusive. There is some material that is placed on the south side as well.
All right, thanks. And I did see that Christopher Quatrin had his hand up and down. So there he goes, back up again. So Christopher, I'm going to unmute your line and let you talk. So you should be able to unmute and go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up a little bit on the assessment. When the court created the lake level control, they also created an order for the district and the assessment role. So that's all done through the court. So as work is done, it's applied as the court has ordered it.
All right, thanks for chiming in with that. Appreciate it. The person here is asking, would a lower legal lake level be advantageous?
I mean, I could answer that, I guess. It's not going to solve the dredging problem. Even if we lowered the lake level by whatever, 2 inches, 6 inches, or a foot, the same activity is still going to occur down at the shoreline. So that amount of sand is still going to be deposited in that channel, no matter how high the lake level was or would be ordered or determined.
Okay. The hashed area to be excavated appears to be too small, yes? Sometimes the channel is full of sand many feet further up the channel.
That is correct. I mean, you looked at one of the photos that we have earlier in the presentation. That sand had moved quite a ways up the channel. I guess what we were trying to depict here was maybe an average situation. And typically this is that dredge amount that you see in the crosshatch is a pretty average situation. I guess we could expand that area to show a larger condition.
Okay. Has the easement accessed changed over the years?
The easement, as I understand, has not changed.
Okay.
I think when it was established 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that main easement has not changed. It has not moved. It's been the same location.
All right, thanks, Daryl. Ben, DC, do we miss any other questions here? I think I'm scrolling through to see, make sure we got all of them. I think we have. Yeah, I think we have. So, and it's about 6:30ish, so timing's right on. So, right now I think we're gonna move on to the next part of our meeting, which is the hearing. So I want to thank Mr. Veldman and Ms. Mathis for joining us tonight and with their presentation and taking time to answer questions. So thank you both. And I will remute your lines. Thanks. Okay. So at this point, what I'd like to do is, well, first of all, I'll explain this really quick. And that's, tonight you have opportunity to provide official comment for the record. If you don't feel like commenting tonight, or maybe you think of a comment you want to submit later, there are other ways to submit comments. And those are the ways that are posted here are the ways to submit comments. You can submit them via our MyWater system, and there's the link there. And I'll let you know that in the chat, if you look in the chat button on your Zoom toolbar, we've just put in all these links. So if you want to grab them there, you can under the chat. Also, you can submit a comment to Ben. There's his email, zamantb@michigan.gov, as well as a mailing address. And it closes January 17th. That's when the comment period closes. So with that, I'll turn it over. I'll leave this up. Ben, I'll let you go ahead and read off your hearing statement to get us started with the official hearing.
Okay. For those of you who have or have not experienced one of our Eagle Water Resources Division hearings, there's quite a long statement that we're required to read. It's meant to set the official record and just explain how the official portion of the hearing works, which is starting now. So good evening, everyone. My name is Ben Zamant, and I'm the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. I'll be serving as the hearings officer for this public hearing. There's other staff with me, I guess, virtually present that are in the Water Resources Division tonight. My supervisor, Kyle Alexander, is on the line. A coworker, Zach Chamberlain, and another coworker, Kate Letterly, are present. So the public hearing agenda is this, that first describing how the work is going to happen tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we're here, and then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we'll take your comments, and then it will be time for you to provide those comments, and that's what we'll spend the rest of the time doing tonight. At the end of the hearing, there'll be a short summary and closing. Background information. So by the way of background, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes, streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate activities, a wide range of them, everything from dredging or filling in a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing and maintaining dams, marinas, placing shore protection, constructing docks, constructing a building in a critical dune area or a wetland or a floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is a huge set of formerly independent statutes, and it's called the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. It's Public Act 451 of 1994. In 1994, they took all of those different formerly standalone laws and they combined them into that one Public Act 451 of 1994. And so at that point, all of those former individual laws became capital P parts of the overall Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. Sometimes you'll hear us refer to it as Michigan's NREPA, for Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. Anyway, we're here tonight because the Berrien County Drain Commissioner, Christopher Quatrin, has proposed the following. And I'm just going to read what was the narrative of the public notice. Maintenance dredging of the Grandmere Outlet County Drain for the purpose of alleviating high water issues associated with North Grandmere Lake. Specifically, the applicant seeks, one, after the fact authorization for maintenance dredging that was conducted approximately 35 times per year over the last 5 years, which included mechanical dredging of approximately 75 cubic yards of sand and gravel from below the ordinary high water mark in an area measuring approximately 25 feet wide by 80 feet long at the stream's confluence with Lake Michigan. Placement of the dredged material in upland locations adjacent to the stream and to Lake Michigan. The second activity is new authorization to conduct maintenance dredging for the next 5 years to include dredging of approximately 75 cubic yards of material from below the ordinary high water mark of the stream and partially in Lake Michigan possibly, in an area measuring approximately 25 feet wide by 80 feet long. Placement of dredge material on upland critical dune areas adjacent to the stream and Lake Michigan. The purpose of the hearing tonight is that in order for a permit to be granted, Eagle must find that the proposed activities meet criteria. This one is fairly complex. There's 3 different statutes, 3 different capital P parts of that Natural Resources Act of 1994, 451. And so I'm going to read a little bit of the criteria from all 3 of the statutes that apply here. One is, again, Part 353, Sand Dunes Protection and Management. Sometimes we just refer to it as the Critical Dune Statute. The second statute is Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams. And the third one is Part 325, Great Lakes Submerged Lands. So we've got proposed impacts to the stream, to critical dunes, and to Lake Michigan, a Great Lake. So reading some specific criteria from each of those 3 statutes. First, Part 353. Under that statute, Eagle is charged to make the following considerations, quoting from a pertinent section of the law. Section 35304(1)G states, subject to 35316, a permit shall be approved unless the local unit of government or the department determines that the use will significantly damage the public interest on the privately owned land, or if the land is publicly owned, the public interest in the publicly owned land by a significant and unreasonable depletion or degradation of any of the following. 1, the diversity of the critical dune areas within the local unit of government. 2, the quality of the critical dune areas within the local unit of government. And 3, the functions of the critical dune areas within the local unit of government. That's Part 353, Sand Dunes Protection and Management. Second statute is Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams. The section 6 of that says the department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. And the second item is that the department shall not grant a permit proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy the waters or other natural resources of the state. And the third statute is Part 325, Great Lakes Submerged Lands. Within that statute, there's administrative rules, and Administrative Rule 15, approval shall not be granted unless the government has determined both of the following. A, that the adverse effects to the environment, public trust, and riparian interests of adjacent owners are minimal and will be mitigated to the extent possible. And B, that there is no feasible and prudent alternative to the applicant's proposed activity, which is consistent with reasonable requirements of the public health, safety, and welfare. So with that in mind, the purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in this application an opportunity to provide information to Eagle Water Resources Division that we can use in making a decision on whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize and only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that we have to use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or your opposition to the project, and we'll be happy to make note of that position, but please understand that Eagle is by law not allowed to base our decision solely on whether or not there's widespread support or opposition to the project. Procedures. In a moment, I will outline the procedures that we will use for taking your comments. Before I do so, for the record, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was also published in the Herald Palladium on December 8th, 2020. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, we will call the names of those who have indicated when they registered for the virtual hearing that they wanted to make a statement. We will call your name in the order in which you registered for the hearing. And please remember that we can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that we use in making a decision. If you have questions and if there's time at the end, depending on which is more appropriate, we may allow the applicant to respond again, or Eagle staff will respond. We'll play that by ear at the end. Secondly, we will call on those. You may not have said when you registered for the hearing, yes, you want to make a comment, but you can still do that, and be reminding you of that. So if in the course of this, or even as we've been here right now, if you at this point in time indicate during this hearing that you would like to speak, we'll still give you the opportunity to. If you have written comments or materials that you would like to submit, you can either upload them into our MyWater system, if that's something you're familiar with doing, email them to me. And again, those contact things are, I think you should be showing up on your chat bar on the side, or even send them via US mail, or on this slide here they are, to the Kalamazoo District Office. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. And as you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association that you might represent. Each person, I think we're gonna have a pretty small number of people, it appears, tonight. So shoot for a maximum of 4 minutes. If need be, we can maybe able to have you extend, but that's what you're shooting for, is probably about 4 minutes, to be respectful of everyone. And if Jim gives you a time's almost up warning, please begin to wrap up your comments. I ask that everybody be courteous and respectful to one another tonight, and realize that we Eagle staff are here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. How will the information be used? We are recording this, and your comments will be part of the official record and part of the information that Eagle will consider in making our decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing. So that means it ends on January 17th, 2021. Additional information and comments that's submitted in the 10-day public comment period will be considered in our decision. Following the close of the public comment period on January 17th, we will make a decision whether or not to issue the permit as proposed, possibly issue it with modifications, or at the other end of the spectrum is that it would be denied. You may find out what the decision is by checking MyWater's website or contacting me. And when you search in our MyWater's website, it's always that submission number, which most of us don't like. It's a randomly generated number that you see there on the screen that starts under number 1 with that HNV. Pro tip, you only need to enter the last 4 or 5, the first 2 series of whatever characters doesn't usually mean much. So if you just do a search and you're using those last 4 or 5, that's easier. Let's see. So thank you for your attention. And now we will begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
All right, thanks, Ben. Yeah, so like Ben said, I do have a list here of people who, when they registered, said they wanted to make a comment. And after we're done with going through those, I'll call up anybody else that wants to make a comment. So with that, just to remind you, when I call your name, I'll unmute you, and you'll see something pop up on your screen that says you're unmuted, or there'll be a little microphone that'll pop up to unmute yourself. And you'll want to do that when you come on. Make sure you restate your name and any organization that you're with. And it might take me a minute to find your name to unmute you. So just, I guess, hang in there, be patient. All right, so first person on my list, actually we have a Dick Stauffer and a Richard Stauffer registered, and I'm assuming they're the same person, and I'm looking on my list, and we have a Richard Stauffer here. So I am going to unmute your line, sir, and you can go ahead and make your comment there. You should see something pop up. So Richard Stauffer.
All right, I'm unmuted.
There you go. Yep.
Great. My name is Dick Stauffer, and I'm the Township Supervisor of Lincoln Township. These lakes reside in Lincoln Township, and I must say that the favorable judgment on this project is important to our township and to our residents. The only thing that saves our residents in that Grandmere area from flooding is the continual flow of water from the lake into Lake Michigan through that channel. If that channel isn't kept open, and I've seen this several times when I've been down there answering residents' questions about this, there's Grandmere Road. I've seen it almost within 6 inches of being flooded when the water level is high, and when that road gets blocked, then it blocks. There are 66 homes in the Grandmere area that would have extreme difficulty in accessing their homes. So that's one of the important points on this. The other one, of course, is the flooding that Darrell pointed out in his presentation, and the flooding of the resorts, which is also another significant issue. So those are my thoughts, and it's important to us. And believe me, when it does get high, the residents call, and my only resolution or only solution is to call our drain commissioner, Crystal Quatrin, who is very prompt and responds to the needs of the residents. And that concludes my comments.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comment. Okay, moving on to our next person that requested to make a comment. It's Drew Montgomery. So Drew Montgomery, I see you there, and I am going to unmute your line, so you should be able to make your comment. Go ahead on. There you go.
Michigan DNR for the Grandmere area. So for us, we know it would help to lower those levels on South Lake and Middle Lake, which, as you can see from the pictures earlier, we put in a new drainage system from South Lake to Middle Lake. We didn't know about the bigger issue on North Lake until recently this started. So we're looking to make sure that anything that you guys need from us, we're here to help, to assist in trying to get this done.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Montgomery, for your comment. All right, let's go to the next person. Mark Florian. Mark Florian, I see you, and I will unmute your line. So you can go ahead and make your comment.
Very good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. Again, my name is Mark Florian. I am a Lincoln Charter Township board member, and together with my parents, we own the majority of the land through which this drain flows, the portion of the drain from North Lake to Lake Michigan that you recall seeing on one of Darrell Veldman's pictures. We are lifelong residents of these properties, and as such have basically a front row seat when it comes to all things that are involving or affecting the function of this drain. That said, we believe that the efforts that are described and proposed in the application are absolutely essential to maintaining the level of North Lake and minimizing and mitigating the flooding issues within the drainage district. And I want to be clear, not just the drainage district around North Lake, but throughout the entire drainage district. Again, referring back to one of the slides that I saw Darrell put up. I believe that the Drain Commissioner's efforts and those of his predecessors historically have centered on accomplishing these goals and these goals only. And I might add, have recently reduced the frequency of the excavation efforts that have been performed, and therefore have diminished the annual expenses to the public at large. And I'll give you an example very quickly. There was a previous comment in this hearing suggesting that the hatched area depicted on the application might be too small, the hatched area proposed for excavation and dredging. There was reference to sand being all the way up the channel. And there was a photograph that Darrell illustrated that had historically occurred. But I can tell you that the Drain Commissioner's diligence over the course of the past couple of years have reduced the extent to which sand moves up that drain, and accordingly has reduced the frequency by which he has to send crews down here to open it up. And when he does have to send crews down here to open it up, they don't have to spend nearly the time that they used to in the past as a result of the debris and the sand being pushed all the way up into that water control structure. Accordingly, to get to the chase, we support this application and would encourage your issuance of a permit. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir, for your comment tonight. And at this point, that's all the people that I have that when they registered said they wanted to make a comment. So I am going to, oops, put my slide up here. Just remind you, if you want to, oh, I've lost my, oh, there it is. Okay. So if you do want to make a comment, you can, just like you did when you asked a question, if you want to make a comment, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. So I'll give it a minute. If you want to click the raise hand icon and your toolbar, and I can call on you to make a comment. I just want to remind you the other ways to make a comment tonight are up on the screen if you'd like to wait and just email your comment in or submit it to the My Water system or mail it. You can do it those ways. So I'll give it just a minute here to see if anybody else wants to make a comment tonight. All right. Seeing none, I am going to turn it over to Ben. And Ben, I guess we can start wrapping it up. So I'll let you go ahead and read the statements you need to read. You're muted, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments tonight, and your cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you can submit your additional written comments until January 17th, 2021. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those who may still want to make a comment, you can do it through My Waters, with an email to me or the US mail. So the official hearing is now closed, maybe one of the quicker ones I've ever done. Thank you again. If there were any other clarifying questions, I guess, what is it? It's 5 till 7, clarifying questions or something like that. I think as the hearings officer, sorry, Jim, we can go back to it being informal, but maybe 5 minutes of, if there's anything else that's, like I said, clarifying question of the process, I think it'd be fair to go ahead and let people ask those in the Q&A box, but we won't drag it out too much longer here because of the lack of official comments. Was there any other questions?
Yeah, so Ben, I'm looking to see if we have any others coming in here, and I don't see any. But yeah, you're right. If people want to take a minute and continue to have some questions, they can, or you can raise your hand, of course. Give it a second here. Oh, we do. Well, I had somebody with their hand up, but they went back down. So you tried to raise your hand. There you go. Okay, so looks like Richard Stauffer, Dick Stauffer's got a question. I'm going to unmute your line, sir, and you can go ahead and ask it.
Yeah, I'm curious. This might be more for Daryl. What's the elevation difference between North Lake and Lake Michigan on today's level?
Yeah, Ben, I muted Daryl too, so I don't know if you want to take that or Daryl.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that the Lake Michigan elevation right now is hovering around 581 even, I think. I don't think I've checked this week, but and Daryl, you'd be able to say from your slides what the legal lake level is of the North Lake, right?
You bet. And yeah, we're seeing the same thing on our sources as well. 581 is a pretty consistent level. Recently, it has dropped. The legal lake levels established for North Cranmere Lake is 582.83. So that would mean that the North Lake is currently 2.83 or 2 foot 10 inches above Lake Michigan.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stauffer, too. Anybody else got any questions? Leave it open for a second, see if anybody else got a question. I'm not seeing
Okay.
any coming in. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, thank you all. The official hearing's over, and so is the informal portion. If there's any other wrap up that you need to do, Jim, have at it. Otherwise, I think we're done.
Yeah, all right, Ben. Well, up on the screen, you got your contact information. Kyle, do you have any parting comments I guess you want to make?
No, I got the easy part. Just tell everybody thanks for coming. So.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for spending some time to join us tonight. We had about 19 people on. Like I said, it's always great to see people show up and make comments. Appreciate your thoughtful insight and comments into this project. And thank you to all our staff here tonight. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great night.
Thanks, Jim.